The crash had been silent, a mercy, considering how close she'd come to the highway. Ayla crawled from the wreckage of her escape pod, her pale blue skin scraped and bleeding a darker shade of azure. The metallic shell dissolved behind her, programmed to leave no trace, but she couldn't erase the memory of her world burning. At nearly 7 feet tall, hiding would be her greatest challenge. The hooded jacket she'd salvaged from the pod's emergency supplies hung loose on her frame, but even hunched over, she towered above the corn stalks surrounding her. Her red curls, wild from the crash, caught the dawn light like copper wire. Millbrook was smaller than she'd hoped, a cluster of buildings along a 2-lane road, population maybe 3,000. Perfect for disappearing, if she could manage it. The storage depot on the outskirts advertised night shifts, and the elderly manager, Pete, barely looked up from his crossword puzzle when she applied. "You're tall," he observed, pushing his glasses up his nose. "Good for reaching high shelves," Ayla replied, grateful her people had studied human languages before the war made such knowledge forbidden. Pete shrugged. "Starts at midnight. Cash only. Don't ask questions, don't cause trouble." The work was mindless, organizing units, handling inventory, dealing with the occasional late-night customer. Ayla preferred it that way. She could move in shadows, avoid the security cameras Pete forgot to maintain, and earn enough to rent a tiny apartment above the town's only diner. But blending in proved harder than expected. Doorframes became her enemy, she found herself ducking constantly, her shoulders permanently hunched. The oversized sunglasses she wore indoors drew stares, but removing them would reveal eyes the color of winter ice, distinctly non-human. Her alien physiology created other problems. Human food tasted like ash, and she often went days without eating, surviving on the nutrient supplements hidden in her apartment. Sleep came in short bursts, her body accustomed to her home planet's 20-hour cycle. 3 weeks into her Earth exile, Ayla thought she'd found her rhythm. She worked alone, spoke to no one, and counted the days until she could find passage off-world. But as she lifted a refrigerator unit that should have required 3 people, she noticed the security camera she'd missed, and the curious brown eyes of the mechanic across the street, watching her through his garage window. Her hands trembled as she set the unit down gently. On her world, discovery meant death. On Earth, it might mean something worse. Jake Reeves wiped grease from his hands and glanced across the street for the 3rd time that morning. The tall woman from the storage depot was there again, moving with that strange, fluid grace that made her seem like she was floating rather than walking. He'd been watching her for weeks now, and something about her didn't add up. "You're staring again," called Tommy from under the hood of a pickup truck. "She lifted that refrigerator unit by herself last night," Jake muttered, adjusting his baseball cap. "Thing weighs at least 300 pounds. Tommy emerged, oil-stained and grinning. "Maybe she works out. Hell, I'd ask her for tips, girl's built like an Amazon." But it wasn't just her strength. Jake had noticed how she moved differently in daylight, almost cringing, like the sun physically hurt her. She never ate at Rosie's diner despite living above it, never shopped at the grocery store, never seemed to do anything normal people did. And those sunglasses, who wore sunglasses at midnight? His opportunity came on a rainy Thursday. The woman, he still didn't know her name, was struggling with a broken umbrella outside the depot. Jake grabbed his spare from the truck and jogged over. "Need some help?" She froze like a deer in headlights, and for a moment, Jake could have sworn her eyes flashed blue-white through the dark lenses. "I'm fine," she said, her voice carrying a strange accent he couldn't place. "It's no trouble. I'm Jake, by the way. Jake Reeves. I run the garage across the street." "Ayla," she replied after a long pause, pronouncing it like Ayla. "Pretty name. Haven't heard it before." She clutched the broken umbrella tighter. "It's foreign." Jake held out his umbrella. "Where from?" "Very far," she said, backing away. "I should go." But as she turned, her hood fell back, revealing a cascade of red curls that seemed to shimmer with their own light. For just a moment, he glimpsed skin that looked almost translucent, with a faint blue tinge that made him think of winter mornings. "Wait," he started, but she was already hurrying away, her long strides eating up the distance between them. That night, Jake found himself watching the depot more carefully. Ayla worked alone, moving heavy equipment with casual ease, never taking breaks, never seeming to tire. When she reached for something on a high shelf, her movements were too smooth, too precise, like she was built for a different kind of world. He'd lived in Millbrook his whole life, knew every family, every story. But Ayla was a mystery wrapped in oversized clothing and tinted glasses. And despite every instinct telling him to mind his own business, Jake found himself wanting to solve her. The question was whether she'd let him close enough to try. The engine block fell without warning. Jake was underneath the old Chevy, wrestling with a stubborn bolt, when he heard the chain snap. 2,000 pounds of cast iron plummeted toward his chest, and time seemed to slow. He could see death coming, could feel the inevitability of it, could almost taste the metallic tang of his own blood. Then suddenly, impossibly, the block stopped mid-air. Ayla stood beside the lift, her arms extended upward, holding the massive engine like it weighed nothing. Her sunglasses had fallen off, revealing eyes that glowed like winter stars. Her pale blue skin seemed to shimmer in the garage's fluorescent light, and her red hair moved as if touched by an invisible breeze. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Jake stared up at her impossible strength, at the otherworldly beauty of her face, at the fear naked in her luminous eyes. "Don't," she whispered, and her voice carried harmonics that seemed to resonate in his bones. Jake rolled out from under the car, his heart hammering. Ayla gently lowered the engine block to the floor, her movements controlled despite the weight. When she looked at him, her expression was that of someone facing execution. "You're not from around here, are you?" he asked quietly. Ayla's shoulders sagged. "No. How not from around here are we talking? Different state? Different country?" She was quiet for so long he thought she wouldn't answer. Then, "Different star." Jake blinked. "Come again." "I'm from a place called Thesha Prime. It's gone now." Her voice broke slightly. "My people, we're refugees. But we're not supposed to make contact with humans. If they find me here. They. My government. Yours. Does it matter?" She started backing toward the door. "I have to go. I have to leave tonight." "Wait." Jake stood up, his legs shaky. "You just saved my life. I shouldn't have interfered. It's against everything I was taught. But you did." He took a step closer. "You could have let me die and kept your secret safe. But you didn't." Ayla's alien eyes glistened. "I couldn't watch you die." "Then don't run." Jake's voice was steady despite the impossibility of the situation. "Stay. Talk to me. Help me understand. You don't know what you're asking. I know you're scared. I know you're alone. And I know you just risked everything to save some mechanic you barely know." He held out his hand. "That tells me everything I need to know about who you are." Ayla stared at his outstretched hand like it was a lifeline and a trap all at once. "If I stay, if I trust you, and you betray me. I won't." "How can you be sure?" Jake thought about it, about the woman who worked alone in the dark, who flinched from sunlight, who moved like poetry and carried herself like she was apologizing for existing. "Because you're not the only one who's been hiding." Jake's apartment above the garage became their sanctuary. Over the following weeks, Ayla slowly shed her human disguise, the oversized clothes, the perpetual sunglasses, the hunched posture that made her seem smaller than she was. In the privacy of his space, she stood tall, her true height making her graceful rather than awkward. "Your people really glow like that?" Jake asked one evening, watching her prepare one of her nutrient supplements. Her skin seemed to emit a soft luminescence in the dim light. It's stronger under our sun, Ayla explained, mixing the blue powder with water. Thesha Prime has a different spectrum. Your sun is harsh for us. Is that why you work nights? She nodded. Daylight burns. Not literally, but it's painful. Like your fluorescent lights turned up to maximum intensity. Jake made a mental note to install softer lighting. He'd been making a lot of mental notes lately, how she preferred cool temperatures, how she needed less sleep but deeper rest, how her reflexes were so fast they seemed like magic. Tell me about home, he said, settling beside her on the couch. Ayla's expression grew distant. 3 moons. Purple skies. Cities that floated on crystalline spires. Her voice carried a musical quality when she spoke of Thesha Prime. We were scholars, artists, philosophers. We believed in peace, in harmony with nature. What happened? The Dominion happened. They wanted our resources, our technology. We refused to fight. She laughed bitterly. We were so naive. Peace doesn't protect you from those who choose war. Jake reached for her hand, marveling at how her fingers were longer than his, more delicate, yet capable of incredible strength. How many got away? Few. I was on a research vessel when the attacks began. The captain told us to scatter, find uninhabited worlds, stay hidden until it was safe to return. Her luminous eyes met his. I don't think it ever will be. Their conversations grew deeper, more intimate. Jake learned that Ayla's people bonded through shared experiences, that touch meant more to them than words. When she was sad, he would hold her hand. When she was frightened, he would wrap his arms around her, feeling her alien heartbeat against his chest, faster than human, with an irregular rhythm that sounded like distant music. The first time they kissed, it was after she'd shared a memory of her lost family. Her tears glowed faintly in the darkness, and when Jake wiped them away, she leaned into his touch with a desperation that broke his heart. I never thought I'd feel safe again, she whispered against his lips. You are safe, he promised. With me, you're safe. Their physical relationship developed slowly, carefully. Ayla's alien nature made her both stronger and more vulnerable than human women. She was afraid of hurting him, and he was afraid of hurting her. But they learned each other's bodies like a new language, finding harmony in their differences. But even in their happiest moments, the fear lingered. Ayla would sometimes wake in the middle of the night, listening to sounds only she could hear, scanning the sky for ships that might be coming. And Jake would hold her, knowing that their love existed in borrowed time, that someday, somehow, their two worlds would collide. The black SUVs arrived on a Tuesday morning, their tinted windows reflecting the early sunlight like dark mirrors. Jake spotted them from his garage window, 3 vehicles, government plates, men in suits who moved with military precision. Ayla, he called up the stairs, his voice tight with urgency. She appeared at the top of the staircase, her alien senses already alert. How many? At least 6. Maybe more. Her face went pale, the blue tinge of her skin becoming more pronounced. They found me. We don't know that for sure. But even as he spoke, Jake could see the men spreading out, surrounding the building. One of them spoke into a radio, his words inaudible but his intent clear. There's a service tunnel, Jake said quickly. Leads to the old mine shaft about 2 miles north. I can get you there. Ayla shook her head. They'll follow. They always follow. Then we run together. No. She cupped his face in her hands, her touch electric against his skin. I won't make you a fugitive. You're not making me anything. This is my choice. Before she could argue, a voice boomed from outside, amplified by a megaphone. This is Agent Morrison, Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs. We know you're in there. Come out peacefully, and no one gets hurt. Jake's blood ran cold. Department of what? They've been watching, Ayla said quietly. Waiting for refugees like me to surface. I should have known better than to. Then to what? Save my life. Trust someone. Her luminous eyes filled with tears. Then to fall in love. The words hit him like a physical blow. He'd known it, felt it, but hearing her say it made everything real. Ayla. I love you, she said, her voice breaking. I love your kindness, your curiosity, the way you see wonder instead of fear when you look at me. But I can't let them take you too. They're not taking either of us. Jake moved to the window, peering through the blinds. The men were getting restless, their formation tightening. In the distance, he could see more vehicles approaching, local police, by the look of them. The tunnel, he said again. We can make it. And then what? Run forever? Hide in caves and abandoned buildings? Ayla shook her head. That's not living, Jake. That's just surviving. It's better than the alternative. Is it? She moved beside him, her hand finding his. I've been running for 3 years. I'm tired, Jake. So tired. Don't give up. Not now. I'm not giving up. She turned to face him, and in her alien eyes, he saw something he'd never seen before, resolve. I'm choosing to fight. Against trained agents. Armed soldiers. Against the fear that's been controlling my life. She squeezed his hand. I found something here worth fighting for. Someone worth fighting for. The megaphone crackled again, you have 60 seconds to surrender. Ayla stood, her full height making her seem like a warrior goddess. If we're doing this, we're doing it together. Jake nodded, his heart pounding. Together. Hand in hand, they walked to the door. Whatever came next, capture, escape, or something else entirely, they would face it as one. Ayla had spent 3 years hiding from her destiny. Now, finally, she was ready to meet it head-on. The door opened, and their future began.